All right, we heard from Lane Kiffin today on this first day of fall camp, and he went into detail a little bit about the quarterback competition and what is to be expected. Anyway, I'm Stephen Willis. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, an extra version of it. Stick around.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to this extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, kind of a PC highlights. We're going to break this into 2 days, by the way. Lane Kiffin spoke with the accredited media on Ole Miss's campus the other day and talked a little bit about what he was looking for in the quarterback competition and how he would go about doing it. Like he wants it decided before the season. Obviously, best case scenario, he doesn't like it when it gets decided after the season, but he also eliminated the fact that he was going to force an issue because he talked about a past situation where he didn't quite get it right. And I think that might have been his second year at FAU. So this is quite interesting. This is quite, honestly, kind of what we expected. He talked a little bit in the press conference about not wanting to just force kids into a system. He also talked about they do eight man on 7v7. The defense has 8 players because they do drop 8. So there is systems. You have to understand there's coach speak. He might tell you one thing. Sometimes he talks through the press to particular players. And I think he's talking to transfers at the moment to try and get them on board with what they do. This is all going to be a fantastic learning experience. I'm looking forward to exactly what will happen, but it should be a lot of fun. Anyway, before we get started, I do want to tell you about BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. I bet MLS is on there as well if you want to look for that. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sporting wagering information. From live in-game betting scores and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening right now. BetOnline, where the game starts. Also, if you look at it, Ole Miss is predicted to win 7.5 games in the regular season. So the over-under is at 7.5 games. They're also projecting them as a 21.5 point favorite over Troy in week 1. So it should be quite interesting to see everything that's going on. We're going to hear from our sponsors real quick right now, and then we will come back with Lane Kiffin. Stick around.
All right, so it was good to be out there today. We have a lot of moving parts as we discussed all spring with new players, and like we told the team in the team meeting, this is a different era nowadays in general because you don't have programs where everyone's been there, for years in your program and understanding what the expectations are. And so I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with this, but especially us with the amount of transfers that so many people and guys that are supposed to be significant players being new, even some not even being here in the spring. So I think that's a big challenge of ours, is how well we can get the players to buy in to the values and principles of our organization, what we do here, because that's not going to happen overnight. So the challenge to them is the faster you do that, the better we'll be. I think that team last year did that really well and became a players team. So we have a lot of work to do because those guys had a long time together to get to that point. Well, I could have predicted the first question, quarterback battle. We're looking for the guy that, leads the team and moves the team the best. And, the intangibles within that are timing, accuracy, and decision making. But it's why we also chart things, by production, by series. Once we get into scrimmages, the guy has this many series, and this is how many points his team scores. So, because that's the bottom line, taking care of the ball and scoring. So I think that competition is great for anybody, especially both of them being young. So I do think that makes you better no matter how old you are. It's good to have around. And guys got to play really good around whoever it is, because you're replacing a veteran quarterback that played extremely well and at times put the offense, especially with injuries, on his shoulders and took it himself to win the game. So that's not, one of these guys isn't going to fill that exactly yet, so it's going to take other people around to help that. Any time in these, you'd like to have it sooner than later, but it's like everything we do here, we deal in analytics. The more information you have, the better you make a decision. So we can't rush that. I think one time for sure I can remember where we've done that and made the wrong decision because we didn't have enough information. And so however long that takes. Ideally, have never liked that to go into a season, but would never rule that out, but that would not be ideal. I don't think like that, and that may be wrong. I think that each year is so new, and especially nowadays with the turnover of your roster, to think we left off here and now we're supposed to go to here. This isn't the NFL where you got most of your roster returning the next year and take the next step. Not just as our roster different, but the people that we play is different. So I don't look at it that way. That's so far, and I'm not saying that's not achievable, but that's just so far from today. We're in the day and trying to get guys better today and figure out, like they just pulled me from film right now, how can we get players better today, and we'll worry about that stuff down the road, and that's outcome based and we're all process based. Well, it was good to have those guys back out and healthy. We're looking at a lot of different ways to move people around and see what's best, because that is a big concern for us, and just got to figure out the best people to play and the best systems to play, because from covering us, we don't just run a system no matter what and make players fit it. We look at our players, who's the best to play, and then form a system around them. It's why year in and year out we can look different on offense and defense. So I think defense, this is a year where you're going to do a lot of that, because you lost a lot of moving parts and some really unique players. So we're going to have some challenges there and have to figure out what's the best way to play and how many D linemen and linebackers and DBs to play with. Yeah, again, we're just into today, which would be a lot more evaluation of an individual player, how they're moving, how they're playing, where they're at from last time we saw them, or for some even the first time that we've seen them, and then eventually figure that out. So that's kind of like the quarterback thing. It's more important to just take today, and then when that comes, figuring out. So improving each player individually is a lot more important than the exact scheme right now.